It's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's sourdough. Hey, it's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's also a show.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Breaking Bread with Tom Papa. I'm Tom Papa. Thank you for joining us at the table once again. Don't you wish you could eat some of the stuff we talk about? We're always bringing bread out and talking about it. Hopefully it inspires you to go get a snack at the very least. And then maybe, who knows, one day we'll be traveling around doing this and I can bring you some snacks that way. The thrust of it is that I'm concerned that you're hungry and that we make you more hungry, and I feel like I should be feeding you. And I know it's illogical and I can't really do anything about it, but just know that I care. Just know that I care. We have a great episode for you today. I had this great conversation with an amazing chef, Taka Sakaeda. He is the head chef and one of the owners of Nami Nori in New York, in the West Village and in Brooklyn. An amazing guy, a real artist, and we'll get into all the stuff about why I really love this conversation with Taka and why you need to go and seek him out and his food. Just an amazing guy. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I would like to thank the good people at Policy Genius for sponsoring today's show. Life insurance gives you peace of mind, and you can trust Policy Genius. They don't add on extra fees or sell your info to third parties. Just head to policygenius.com to get your free life insurance quotes. They consolidate all of the life insurance out there, put it into one easy to analyze space, and then you get to get life insurance for the people that you know and love. See how much you could save at policygenius.com. Also, I'd like to thank the good people at Ritual Multivitamins. Ritual Multivitamins are delivered to your door every month, specially formulated to help fill the gaps in your diet. You can get key nutrients without all of the BS and without having to run out and then figure out how you're going to get it, and then another week goes by and your health starts to slip again. Ritual is offering my listeners 10% off during your first 3 months. First 3 months, 10% off your first off 10% off your first 3 months. Visit ritual.com/papa to start your ritual today. More from those friends a little later. All right, let me tell you why you're going to love Chef Taka Sakaeda. He is an artist. He's a regular guy who is also an artist. He grew up in Long Island, and he found his way into the sushi world, not just from his background, which we'll get into, but also under the mentorship of Masa Takayama. Masa is this amazing, world-renowned spot in New York, and being able to study under Masa, you can tell the influence. I mean, we talk about not just the beauty of the food and the thoughtfulness that he puts into his food, but also in the same way, and you can tell that it comes from Masa, this real thoughtfulness into every detail of the dining experience, from the plates to the design of the restaurant to the attitude of the people, and of course to the food and the artistry of the food. It's such a cool thing to see. And I was growing up around the same time on the other side of New York, over in New Jersey, and at the time when I was a child, Japanese food was just starting to emerge. And it wasn't really what I'm describing here with Taka. Chef Taka is kind of the culmination of a lot of people working really hard and bringing the true cuisine to the area. When I was a kid, it was just starting out, and really the antithesis of it is what my father and I used to go to, all-you-can-eat sushi. And that was kind of the New Jersey start of it. There was just, they weren't, look, as cuisines come up and you start to educate the people in these environments, it takes time. And I guess I'm guessing the way that you got people in New Jersey, white people in New Jersey, to even be exposed or walk into the doors of these of a Japanese restaurant that was newly opened, was to make it all you could eat, because that is how New Jersey rolls. It is just, let's just get a mass of it. And I have to say, it took me years to kind of shake that off, because I literally thought, like in my little pea brain, you walk in, it's not the quality of it and the special elements of the dish. It's how much can you stuff into your fat face to make the restaurant suffer. You can say all you can eat, and that's a nice offer, but we're going to get our money's worth. And we would just plow through, which was probably, I mean, it was probably California rolls out the wazoo. But I just remember as a kid, my father just bearing down, and we would just plow through sushi. And then you'd walk away thinking, yeah, we experienced Japanese food. It was the starter kit. It was the New Jersey starter kit. When you listen to Taka talk in that should be the name of his book, by the way, Taka Talk. When you listen to this conversation, you will understand how far away we've come from the all-you-can-eat Jersey stops. Are they bad? No. It introduced people to a new culture and to a new thing in a sea of Italian restaurants and pizza places and bagel shops, whatever it took. And now to see the evolution of it, and of course masa, and now Taka's spots, it's just great. And I love talking to people that there's a little artistry behind it, and that really just comes from a thoughtfulness. And you'll see just in this conversation, you will be inspired just from that, just from thoughtfulness. And I think you'll enjoy it. And again, it'll leave you feeling a little more hungry. And again, I'll feel guilty that I don't have food for you. But just know there's bread in the oven, and eventually it'll come to you. All right, now enjoy this conversation I have with the great Taka Sakaeda. Taka.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how's it going?
Fantastic.
Nice
How
to
are
meet
you?
you.
Pleasure to meet you too.
Yeah, this is good. This is good. All right, you sound good. You look good.
Thank you.
We'll go right into it.
Awesome, awesome.
Thank you for being here. This is very
Oh,
cool.
thank you. Thank you for having me. This is exciting for me as well, you know?
Yeah, we're going to look back on this and be like, remember when we had Taka on, that giant superstar? Do you remember when we got him? Now we won't return our calls. Now
I hope I don't change that much.
now he's got 25 locations. It's really cool to meet you. There's a real artistry to what you do, and I'm excited to kind of explore it. It has your place has such a cool. People should just go to your Instagram just to see the combination of the design of the place and the design of the food is really a wonder. Like it creates a feeling just from looking at it just on social media. You will immediately get this kind of feeling. And that was the main question I had on my mind this morning was, how do you, I mean, you're explore food, you have a great chef, but that thing of like making it a destination that actually conveys what you are in the physicality of the place and in the food. How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot that goes into it and a lot of thought, you know. But you know, I guess this is almost like a question of like, how do you kind of create something, you know? And specifically for us, I mean, especially the design of the space and how it looks, you know, Lisa, my partner in Nami Nori, you know, she had, so much, there has to be a level of sense is something that we always talk about, right? Like that's a kind of culmination of your life experience and, drawing on inspirations from other people that you kind of want to emulate and so, it comes together, but at the end of the day, when you sit down with something, it's just steps, right? So specifically for the food aspect, it's like, what do I want to eat?
Right.
It kind of starts with there. It's like, what is it that I want to showcase? And so it kind of goes from very big idea. And then we kind of focus down. Okay, so if this is going to be a scallop dish, what does that mean? What kind of influences do I want to draw on?
Right.
And really starts by, the foundation has to taste good, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, all these things, the Instagram and things, it's great to kind of draw people in, but at the end of the day, if you want people to stay, it's got to taste good.
Yeah.
So, we really work on building those flavors and building that foundation first.
Right.
And then all of the kind of the more visual aspects come on top of it. Right. And so, that comes into play with like knife skills, right? How do we want to cut this vegetables for this dish to look a certain way? Or, what layer of these, like the sauce, should it go on this layer, first layer, second layer? Where should it sit? Based on maybe it's a color thing, right? So maybe it's a darker color. You want to have lighter colors on top. And so I'm just thinking about actually the scallop XO that we have, you have this background of this white scallop. Then we have an XO sauce that's kind of red and brown, right? And then on top of that goes orange tobiko. And on top of that, lighter lemon zest goes on top of it. But all these layerings and like, it's very conscious, right? The decision of where things are going to go and how they kind of come together.
Right. Knife skills. I've heard you talk about knife skills. And as a amateur home cook, and I'm in there with my knives of varying dull proportions. Where did you develop your knife skills? Let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, so pretty much most of my like professional working experience, like 10 years I spent at Masa Restaurant.
Right.
So it happens to be, the only 3 Michelin star Japanese restaurant in the United States.
Crazy. And how did you get there? Because you didn't start you started pretty much at the ground level there, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that generally, unless you have some serious experience, if you go there, everyone's the ground level,
right?
But previous to that, I worked in a small local Japanese restaurant called Nagashima in Jericho, Long Island, is where I grew up.
Right.
And actually, I still am in contact with the sushi master, who kind of got my career started in some way.
Okay.
His name is Kobayashi-san, but I worked there for about 3 years, and I was looking to kind of move on and see different things. And so I actually replied to a Craigslist ad and went to go interview at Masa, and
no way.
They happened to like my personality enough to let me through the door, I guess.
Oh, that's great.
That's
I'm sorry to jump the question, but this was on my mind as well. I grew up in New Jersey. You grew up in Long Island, and I grew up Italian American, and where there was just you couldn't go. It was like the Starbucks of my childhood. There was like a pizza or Italian, or there's red sauce covering every avenue I went down. When you were starting in Long Island as a kid, and you were growing up in a Japanese home, did it feel like it was at the time? Was there? Now it seems like Japanese is celebrated and there's a lot of it around. Was there at the time?
Yeah, actually. So in the town that I lived in, Japanese community was pretty small, right? Yeah. I think that it was myself and another family were the only 2 Japanese people in our entire school system, I think.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
But there happened to be, I forgot exactly, maybe it was Sony or something. There was an office in like Port Washington or something. So there were Japanese people that would come through business and, come fly in from Japan and things like that.
Right.
So because of that, I think there were at least 2 Japanese restaurants in my local town growing up.
Okay.
That I can remember.
Right.
So, but, at home, it was strictly speaking Japanese at home. And outside of that, I was speaking English. Okay. And, my mom was a stay-at-home wife. So, my mom cooked all the meals. So a lot of our dinners and breakfast and dinner was all Japanese food.
Right.
So, you know,
Was she
without
good?
that, so actually my mom was a nutritionist in Japan.
Oh,
And
no
so
way.
she kind of put together meals for, you know, in hospitals for people with special dietary restrictions or coming out of surgery. You can only eat certain things.
Right.
And so she was a nutritionist. Plus, part of that training was to like learn how to cook these meals as well. So, you know, she always tried to balance like things that taste really well and trying to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, I was spoiled in some ways, you know, growing up with somebody like that in my family.
How are her knife skills?
Pretty good. Pretty
Yeah.
good. Yeah. That's definitely above average. Yeah.
Right.
She can hold it. Yeah, she can
Right.
hold it. Yeah.
So when you first get that first gig in before Masa, did you feel what age are you at that point? That's
Actually, I dropped out of college to pursue this. So
okay.
I think 19 or 20 was the first time I stepped into like a professional kitchen. Yeah.
Right. So you left school to go do it.
Yeah.
Were your parents cool with that?
Not at all. I mean, actually, this was something even during high school that I wanted to pursue. I wanted to go to culinary school, and I actually applied to like Johnson and Wales in Rhode Island and CIA, and they kind of pressured me to like, hey, you know, they didn't say it so straightforward, but basically it was like, you know, we're an immigrant family. We didn't move from Japan to raise you in America so that you can become like a cook. You know, it wasn't at the time during when I was 19, it wasn't like a glorified position. There wasn't this media attention surrounding chefs. And, you know, they looked at it as this like grueling job, which it is, right?
Sure.
But, you know, they wanted something quote unquote better for me, you know?
Right.
But this was something that I just love to do. I wanted to share the experience of having a great meal, you know, eating great food, you know, breaking bread is such an important thing in so many cultures. And it hit home with me growing up with a mother who cooked dinner every night, you know, and having this time to spend around the table and share what you did for the you know, throughout your day and just catch up with your family. It hit home for me, and I wanted to just share that with people, you know.
So for this to be a passion at 19, where you're going to blow up school and make your parents very unhappy in the to make this first step, that means it was on your mind from what age? I mean,
I would say probably around 15, 16.
Yeah.
But I mean, even before that, so, you know, as I was saying, my mother, you know, growing up was making dinner all the time. So even maybe it was like 9 years old or something. I remember, you know, I get home from school, my mom is like prepping, she's like getting ready for dinner. And I would just be hanging out at home, and, you know, I would be like, hey mom, I'm hungry, you know, and it was really out of like, I want to eat quickly, so let me help you, mom, to get dinner on the table faster. That's kind of how it started. But through that process, it's like, wow, like I helped to create something that I made with my own two hands, and like contributing to that and to see the satisfaction. And, you know, my mom would be like, oh, you know, Taka helped to make this dinner and whatever. And like, oh, you know, you get kind of some positive feedback or whatever. You feel good, you know?
Yeah, sure.
And so it's very deeply rooted in like from early childhood for me, like making food, feeding people, getting feedback, you know?
Yeah, that's great. I know, it's amazing how it's such a cool thing. I love when things hit us when we're young, and it holds. It's I don't know if it's fate or luck, but it's just like for you to know that at such a young age, and there's no way around it. It's like they can make you go to school and they can do all this stuff, but you're not going to be knocked off that path.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if so much of it was that I was, you know, I was never in a professional kitchen up to that point, so I didn't really know, you know. But what I did know was I knew what I didn't want to do, and I just couldn't see myself sitting like in an office, you know, in front of a computer and like just doing that kind of office job. You know, in Japanese we call salary man. You know what I mean? And I just couldn't see myself in that path, you know. Through my high school, I was always an athlete. Like I did sports, and I think that that's part of it, right? I just wanted to do something with my body, create something, and it just resonated with me. And once I stepped into that culture, into the restaurant world, that's when I really knew. It's like, this is it.
Yeah, that's great.
you know.
Yeah, you know it immediately. What sport were you in high school?
I wrestled and I played football. Those are
Oh,
my two strongest sports. I did like a
yeah,
little bit of lacrosse, a little bit of track and field, but yeah.
nice. Yeah. What did you play in football?
I was an offensive guard and a defensive linebacker, actually.
Ah, nice. Yeah, I was a fullback and a defensive linebacker also.
Nice.
And yeah, I know your track and field thing. That's like when you want to stay in shape for football, but you
Yeah,
hate
just doing
track and
something on
field.
the off season.
Yeah, but it's just torture. Oh man. So when you make the when you go into Masa, are you very aware of like, holy cow, this is now an opportunity? Like now this is kind of like a special place, or is it just
No,
emerging?
total ignorance.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? All right. You want to take care of your health. You want to take care of your life. You want to make sure that you're getting all the nutrients that you can while you're eating and while you're living and while you're doing your little life that you call you. Well, a multivitamin should contain key nutrients and forms your body can actually use to help fill in the gaps of your diet. Ritual multivitamins delayed release capsule design delivers high quality nutrients including vitamin D3 in just 2 daily pills. It's now available for women, men, and teens. Ritual multivitamins are scientifically developed to help support different life stages, which is an amazing thing. I have a family and we all have different needs. It's nice to know that one place is going to satisfy all of that. Ritual makes healthy habits easy. Your multivitamins are delivered to your door every month with free shipping always. You can start, snooze, or cancel your subscription at any time. And if you don't love Ritual within your first month, they'll refund your first order. They're vegan certified, non-GMO, gluten and allergy free. No fillers, colorants, or shady additives. It was just started as a way to provide good multivitamins in a easy to get system. 9 nutrients to help fill the gaps in your diet. They're transparently sourced ingredients. You know exactly what you're taking at all times. Get key nutrients without the BS. Ritual is offering my listeners 10% off during your first 3 months. Visit ritual.com/papa, P-A-P-A, to start your Ritual today. What a nice thing to know that you've got vitamins that are coming every month and you're just in that little cycle. You don't have to worry about it. It's just all set up. You tell them what you need, you tell them what you want, and it just shows up and you're never going to run out and you're going to be a healthy little bugger. Visit ritual.com/papa to start your Ritual today. Policy Genius. Look, as someone who runs through their little life and has married people and made people and have people that depend on me, it's nice to know that you have life insurance. In case anything goes wrong, you know that the people that are counting on you will be taken care of. It could seem kind of daunting. It can seem like, well, where do I start? Who do I trust? How do I know what life insurance is any good? Well, life insurance can give you peace of mind that if something happens to you, your loved ones would have a financial cushion for rent, mortgage payments, loans, etc. Policy Genius is your one-stop shop to find the insurance you need at the right price. Click the link in the description or head to policygenius.com and answer a few questions. In minutes, you can compare personalized quotes from top companies to find your lowest price. You could save 50% or more on life insurance by comparing quotes with Policy Genius. Again, another company that just takes this complicated industry, makes it simple, easy to use, and you'll be able to analyze things on your own and get the insurance that works for you. The Policy Genius team works for you, not the insurance companies. Whether you're just starting to shop or have questions about your active policy, they're your independent advocates offering unbiased advice. Head to policygenius.com to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you can save. A beautiful thing. Take care of your loved ones and do the research in a very easy easy way without people hounding you or people just overselling you stuff. They just do all of that work for you. Go to policygenius.com.
And I think it was for my benefit, you know?
Yeah,
Like I
of
didn't
course.
have, if I had actually understood what I was stepping into, I might have, behaved very differently, and I
Yeah,
might not have had the same level of like, I don't know how to like ignorant courage, just like
right.
not knowing. So I was just like, oh yeah, just go do it, whatever,
Yeah,
you
so you
know?
could be yourself there, and that works to your benefit.
Yeah. So actually like at the time, my girlfriend at the time was the one who actually found the ad. And funny enough, she's the one who's like, she did all this research and she's telling me about Michelin and New York Times reviews. And I'm just like, I had no idea about the world of culinary world, before that point. And so she's telling me all these things about accolades of Chef Masa, and it didn't resonate at all. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, what does that mean? Michelin, is that like Olympics or like, what is, you know what I mean? There's no like frame of reference.
Why are you talking about tires right now?
No frame of reference at all. So
Right.
yeah, I just kind of went in there like, okay. And just like, but I, as I was saying, I think it really helped me just to like not have any nerves. Just, this is like a progression. This is what I want to do. And so people are telling me he's the best. And why not learn from the best?
How, looking back now, how great was he?
Oh, I mean, he's like a genius. He's an artist, first and foremost. And I think that, when we talk about like sense, he has like, that's his DNA,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like not just with food, it's like with the pottery and the plates. Like he designs all those things and he molds them and creates a blueprint so other people can hand make them. And so it's like, it's much deeper than just that, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
even designing the space, the cutting board, all of those things. Chef Masa has his hands in every single detail about the entire experience there.
Wow.
And so understanding that and seeing that, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, like there's only a few people on the entire planet that has that ability to do that,
Right. But you could see the influence in your work. Like you obviously
Right.
really, there's that thing. I mean, that was my first question was, how do you get the design of all this stuff to sync up? It's obviously that was you soaked it up. You soaked it up like a
I think it's important to at least, be exposed to thinking in that way.
mm-hmm.
Honest to God, this is not like trying to be humble. It's just
Yeah.
really like, it's a lifelong process, and understanding art on that level is, I think it comes also with experience and life experience. You just,
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that you can't teach somebody those kinds of things. It's not,
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, that's just like you staying on the right path as a human being and exploring and going deeper.
Right.
But what about the basic skills? Like when did you start to feel like, all right, now I'm getting, because you become head sushi chef. Is that the first place where you're being called on to that role?
I mean, when I first started there, I did every position and I worked through the rankings, I guess you can say, like through the different stations.
Yeah.
And during that time, I started there in 2007. So this was
Okay.
September 17th. Actually, I can still remember my first day.
Yeah.
But, during that time, Chef Masa was kind of like, the following year, he got his 3 Michelin stars. And then, he started to explore maybe expansion, different concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the big projects that he started 2009 was Las Vegas. And so, we opened up Las Vegas November, December of 2009.
Okay.
And so that was the first time that I was kind of promoted to like the head sushi chef of opening this new location.
Wow.
So it took me about 2 years to get that first kind of like, management head chef position.
That's quick.
Yeah. But, I would say it took me about, a solid year of just grinding it,
Mm-hmm.
to feel even comfortable that I was at my, like a base level that I'm useful at Masa restaurant. Right.
Right. Yeah. Right. That you're not getting in the way.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, that's like, obviously restaurant business is like, notorious for long hours and, working crazy. And at the time we were working 80 plus hours a week, 6 days a week. And, on my days off, I was literally, on my one day, I was buying 50-pound bags of carrots and practicing. Like, we have a technique called katsuramuki, and I was just cutting, and I would go and like get, fish from the Chinatown or something and just try practicing butchering fish, and so
Jeez.
for like a solid year, it was just like nonstop, as much as I could do,
Amazing. Is it the kind of thing that is it one of those crafts, it seems like it's one of those crafts that you never stop learning? You never stop.
Yeah, there's always things to learn. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Like, even still, like every day I go in and I talk to somebody, I'm like, oh wow, that's an interesting perspective, or interesting like new technique, or new way of cutting, or you know what I mean. And there's still nice skills that I still want to kind of put into my repertoire as well. But time becomes a factor.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So what how many knives should I have in my kitchen?
I would say all you need is one knife. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I think it's more important to hone in your personal skills. They say, like, how sharp is your knife? In Japanese, we say, how sharp is your arm? Right. So basically, if your arm is very sharp, you can take a dull knife and you can still cut with it. Right. It's really about honing your personal skill. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there are, outside of that, this is like a more philosophical statement I just made, right? But outside of that, like, if you have a really good chef knife, and for me personally, if I have a chef knife and if I have an usuba, I think I can do almost anything. Yeah.
Really?
Usuba is the Japanese vegetable knife. This kind of like
the square.
Yeah, it's sometimes square, and then there's the little rounded style as well.
Right.
But the bevel is much thinner, so it makes it easier to glide through like vegetables and things.
I was given one of those at Christmas, and it's all I'm using. I just can't believe how much better it is than any other knife I've ever used. Really, it's that's, I have to say, that is one of the very appealing things of Japanese culture in general to me. Is there's, as a writer, as a comedian, it's always about distilling things down as simple as you can, and it seems in the Japanese culture that is the best artistic expression of the culture from the outside. It seems like it's always getting down to what's simple and powerful.
Yeah.
Am I right?
We're always just trying to find like what is the root, right? And that's why like the words like foundation always come to mind, right? Like, what is on the bottom? Like, what's holding it up everything, And it's so important. And that's really comes down to like fully trying to really understand something, right? Like when we're talking about like human beings, we like get very, down to the molecule, right? Down to the cell. Like, what is the cell doing, to understand what the human being is? Right. I think that we just take a similar approach. Like, what is the flavor of this carrot? Why does it taste this way? You know what I mean? How is it grown? What's the soil? How much water? What time of the year? And so really just trying to like as many details as you can collect, as much information you can collect, the more tools you have to manipulate something,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's so interesting. It's funny. This is a total side thing, but I was in the supermarket, and my nephew's a farmer, and I saw this big bag, and it said a big thing of carrots at the supermarket, and it said hydro washed. And I was like, how else would you wash it? Why is this special? Why is this on the bag?
Yeah, why is it special?
So when another thing, like, okay, so you dial it in, and you're always exploring, and you're changing the menu. The design is probably, I'm sure, evolving. People now start to rely on you in the West Village and Brooklyn, and you've got, there's a reputation, there's a thing that you're getting when you go to these places. How are you able to maintain consistency?
That is. Yeah.
How? That to me, it seems like it's so. I mean, I know it takes hours and hours and hours. Is probably which is a short answer, but that to me is a very impressive thing. And how the hell do you do it?
Yeah, so I mean, there are obviously many strategies and many approaches to this problem.
Mm-hmm.
One of the simplest ways is to have a small restaurant and have the one chef do everything,
Right.
which is a lot of
Yeah.
like the philosophy and idea behind like Japanese sushi omakase restaurants, where there's only like 10 seats,
Right.
and it's like the husband and wife, and that there's just that's it. That's the entire staff. Like you don't need
Right.
to teach anybody. You don't need to like delegate. It's just like you do it yourself.
Yeah.
And that is one approach, right? But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, for like a restaurant group and growing, and so one of the strategies that we implemented for us is we do have a commissary kitchen. So we do have a centralized location where we do all the fish butchery, all the sauces are made in one location. And so we can minimize from location to location. Obviously everyone has a palate. We want to standardize the palate across the board, but
Mm-hmm.
people are different. It's like, and it can only be so, so
Right.
continuous between different chefs, different people.
Right.
And so we have one location where majority of all of our products are processed and created. And then that's disseminated between our locations. So that's one way. But at the end of the day, once you get to the location, there's still the staff who need to put it together. There's still prep that happens in the locations themselves. And at the end of the day, there's no big secret. It's really just training and training. And just being, and just making sure your standards are high and your staff, can appreciate that and they understand it.
Right.
Yeah.
Was that a part? I can just get from your vibe that dealing with the people is probably comes pretty natural to you.
I think that that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, again, if you want to go the approach of, you're the only chef and that's it, then you don't have to deal with anybody. But, if you're dealing with, any kind of scaling or any type of, you want to have a team, you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to talk to them and, get the message across,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So what's exciting right now? You were just in Hawaii, I think.
Yeah, we were. We actually did a pop-up there. It was a Auberge Resorts hotel called Manalani in the Big Island.
Uh-huh.
It was a lot of work, basically we were there for about 2 weeks doing kind of some lunch takeout services plus a sit down kind of more omakase style temaki experience that we created just for that pop-up.
Wow. What was the idea? Where'd you come up with that idea?
So actually, last year, it was right around February last year, and pandemic was still happening, and one of our partners, he was staying at that resort and kind of just invited us to just, we haven't taken any time off since we opened the restaurant. So he just invited us to take a couple days and just relax, and ended up that he knew like the general manager of the property, and then they had a conversation and kind of sparked hey, what about potential pop-up, because they were looking for maybe adding another restaurant venue to their property, and all these kind of small little conversations bloomed into, okay, well, why don't we just do a pop-up and see how things work out.
Right.
So really it was like a year in the making, to get all the details together and all the logistics and to figure everything out. So yeah, happy? Everyone on their end was happy. Guests were happy. I mean, considering everything that needed to be done and everything that happened, I think it was a real success.
Yeah.
And really, like, we had literally 2 days to set up for our first nights of service, and trying to open a full service restaurant in 2 days, it's not recommended.
That's crazy. It's always crazy when you go to a place like Hawaii and it's like everyone's enjoying themselves to the nth degree, and you're just busting so much harder than everybody else.
It was quite an experience. I mean, it pushed me to my limits, my physical limits, but it was, at the end of the day, it was so rewarding, and to be able to have that experience, not just for me personally, but, we brought 10 of our staff members over there.
Wow.
And, for them to have that kind of experience and for them to see that and to experience that, like, we were just talking about this, how this is going to be like a lifelong memory, for all of us. And the family like that. It was that part was especially special for me too.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like that would have been like doing that undertaking is in normal times is a big deal, but also like coming after what you must have dealt with over the last couple of years in New York. I mean, that must have tested you in a whole different way.
Yeah, I think it tested all of us.
Yeah, yeah.
But sometimes we have conversations like, well, if it wasn't, if it wasn't this pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
we're fairly confident it was going to be something.
Right.
Like just the restaurant business by nature of what it is, it's like it's just there to test you like
Right.
constantly. And so kind of like, maybe it was good that we had a shared experience between all restaurant people,
Mm-hmm.
and we had, we didn't have our individualized challenges. It was like more of like a restaurant industry wide where we can come together and find solutions as an entire team of like hospitality team versus our solo restaurant, right. And so in that kind of way, it was very unique, and but it doesn't change the fact that the amount of things, the legislation, the rules changing from week to week sometimes, and just having to retrain the staff on new protocols and having to build out new training programs and new protocols. It was just like it was a lot to do, and then on top of that, we had like a brand new restaurant.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, all the artistry and all the stuff that you're putting into just doing the basic stuff that makes it successful. And then now here's a whole nother a bunch of hoops you can jump through. What do you do? I mean, this is kind of crazy because this is kind of a free time question, which you don't have free time. But how do you feed your mind, and how do you feed your being with what other kind of art and music or reading or anything else that outside of food? What are some of your
actually one great way of like being able to read is like audiobooks. So throwing an audiobook, that's great. I can do that on the train ride there, or just in between, whatever. Podcasts are great too. I mean, I learn a lot, from that as well, and that experience as well. So, I mean, there's so many different avenues in which you can, gain information. There's there's too much. There's too much access to information almost,
I know. Yeah.
Sometimes it's overwhelming, and sometimes I want to control it, like I need to take a rest.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And have none of it. I know it's the amount of people I run into and talk to, I'm always jotting down the name of an author, the name of a podcast, the name of a thing to get to. And then I never end up even looking at the list because
too many.
It's just too much.
It's infinite. It feels like,
Yeah. It feels like we're at this tipping point. It's like everything is knowable in a way. All right. As someone who loves Japanese food, but as someone who doesn't make much of it, can I?
Absolutely. I think that fundamentally, actually, Japanese food is like at the core is very simple. Like it's soy sauce, sake, and mirin is mostly found in all sauces, and a lot of the sauces is just like a balance of those three things, and then adding maybe some sort of like different type of stock, whether it's kombu, right? Kombu dashi, which is just like your kelp seaweed stock, or katsuo dashi, which is like the bonito that's been dried, fermented, and then shaved very thin, and then you make a broth out of that. So adding kind of different flavors to your soy sauce, sake, and mirin, right?
What's the last word?
Mirin. Mirin is like the cooking sake, like
Okay.
a little bit sweeter sake.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, can be replaced with sugar or something like that.
Got it.
And just understanding the balances of those things. But yeah, I mean, I think that generally Japanese cooking is pretty simple on the very, very ground level,
Okay.
So I think it's very easy to pick up. If you learn a couple things, I think you can do a lot.
Yeah. All right. I'm inspired. You ever put out a book?
Think about it. I think that's still a little bit ways down. I think we have a lot of things that we want to accomplish before, any kind of book comes out. But I think that, whatever it is, sharing stories, sharing knowledge, I think that's so important. Like whatever it is, whatever story you want to tell, if people want to hear it, I'm more than happy to share. Yeah. And that's kind of the philosophy and the way I go about cooking and food and And if people are willing to learn, I'm more than happy to sacrifice my time and my energy to share that with somebody else.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Is it do you have a lot of turnover, or when people come? I would imagine if the people that have talent that would come into your orbit at the restaurants would probably stick around for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, each restaurant has different challenges, and I think that depending on the position, our turnaround is very, very different. And so, I think that we do have people that have been with us from the beginning.
Yeah.
But then again, everything that's been happening with COVID and all of that, so it's like a hard, time to really determine where we stand, because things were still not normal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
People got sick, people had families to take care of, the schedule no longer worked for them, whatever, there's so many exterior things happening that it's hard to gauge.
Right, right.
But again, I think that that's something that we really focus on, right?
Yeah.
We want to make sure, we want to create a family. We want that Nami Nori family.
Yeah.
And it's, it's really important to us that we connect on like a deeper level than just employee and employer.
Yeah. What's on your mind these days when you're on your way to work? Just food wise, take all the business and the people out of it, and all of that. What's kind of turning you on? What's on your mind?
Oh, well, I mean, very recently, we actually starting this yesterday. This is not a plug because, but just yesterday we started a collaboration with Lama Inn, and so that's Eric Ramirez is a Peruvian restaurant, and so obviously this kind of naturally happened. They reached out and they were like, hey, we should do something, and we have our restaurants are very close to each other, and so having his food and being tasting, it was just amazing food.
Really?
Like thinking about all these different, right, like I was just exposed to something new, like Peruvian flavors and Peruvian herbs, and just now I'm like, wow, like totally new information coming into my head about food and flavors. And so I've just been pondering about Peruvian food a lot lately.
Oh, that's great.
So we actually, for this collaboration, we designed a temaki. We both started with a local fluke, sustainable. And so they made a tiradito out of it. We made a temaki out of it. And so, I made a play on the kind of in Japanese, the ume plum, pickled plum, and shiso is kind of like a, very, traditional kind of, understood flavor combination.
Right.
And so I made basically a leche de tigre, but using katsuodashi as the fish stock and using the plum with the red shiso in as kind of like the acid. And so I made a sauce out of that and added shiso. And so they exposed me to this great herb. It's kind of, I think they call it a black mint in English, but it's called huacate is the herb, but it's has that herbaceous, has some similar notes to the shiso leaf. And so kind of using that in conjunction with the shiso also kind of made it. Yeah.
I love it. I love to see your the wheels turning. This is very inspiring. Do you ever get to go back to Japan and
I mean, the last time I was there was probably about 5 years ago.
Okay.
I'd love to go more often, but again, comes to time. It's thinking about traveling that far. It's like you spend 2 days just traveling.
Yeah.
And so then you get there, and then there's like, you have only so many days to get out of town. So it's been hard to get back there. But
I've never been there, and
oh wow,
I really it's been on my mind a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you should definitely make it out there. But I mean, they've been closed off too, pretty much.
I know this isn't the time.
Very difficult. Yeah.
Something about the mountains that just seems like, I don't know. It just seems like it's a place that has to, as we return, it should be like on the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, I as soon as they open, I'd like to go. I do have plans to go there next year.
Yeah.
Actually my father passed away. Like in Buddhist religion, it's like the seventh year is like a significant year. So if there's certain like year markers to go visit your past ones. And so next year would be those years, to go
really
visit.
At the seventh year after they passed.
Yeah, there's like a 3-year mark, a 7-year mark. Yeah, there's different like year markers, but this is like their path after death, as they're walking towards like divinity. Yeah.
Oh, oh, wow. That sounds pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't raised to strict Buddhist or anything, but we just kind of followed, whether it was never like the Buddha
Yeah.
says.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
kind of intrinsic in like our upbringing and how we were, how we were raised.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's the same thing with me with Christianity. It's like, I'll take the good parts.
But actually, interesting enough, in high school, I had a group of friends who introduced me to Christianity. I was baptized actually when I was, I think, a junior in high school or something. And
Really?
yeah. And so, but through that experience, it exposed me to all the religions and another way of thought.
Yeah.
And so I'm not like, I wouldn't consider myself Christian at this point, but it was eye opening. I was just trying to explore, figure out life,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, just to have
Yeah.
a different perspective. It was good. It was interesting.
Well, this was so cool. I thank you so much for spending the time with me. It's kind of funny when you have an idea of what somebody's like when you go in, and then you kind of even heighten it. Like you're very thoughtful. Really, there's a thoughtfulness and a joy that totally comes through. And I'll have to reach out when I'm back in New York and come see you live.
Yeah, please do. And I'd love to. Maybe we can get together and I can show you how to make some Japanese food.
Yeah, I'll bring my knife.
Amazing.
All right, Taka. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right. You too. I'll see you soon. All right. That was our conversation with Taka Sakaeda. Go to Nami Nori and check out his restaurants. Amazing, amazing spots. I told you it was going to be good, right? Thoughtful. Is that what you came away with? Thoughtful. Yes. So great. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for liking and subscribing and giving me your comments and begging for bread. Again, I'm doing my best. I will get you bread eventually. We'll work at it, kids. We're all in this together. Thank you for joining me at the table, and we'll see you again next week.